The Jets are coming off a win. It's celebration time in the Bender household. I'm going to Vegas. I might find an Aria gelato bowl of some sort to go make Howard jealous. That and a whole lot more on the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. Jeff Erickson here with Howard Bender, old friend, good friend from RotoWire, now with Fantasy Alarm. You can hear him on SiriusXM Fantasy as well. And Howard, what's your time slot right now? When can we find you? 5 to 7 Eastern time? Is that correct?
On SiriusXM, yeah, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern. You can find me. You can also find me, and you'll love this one, Jeff, Sunday mornings, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern.
I saw that. You're nuts. You didn't move back to New York, did you?
I did not move back to New York.
That's insane.
It's 4 a.m. my time for Sunday mornings for me. What are you going to do?
Yeah, you're a good man, Charlie Brown. Anything for the brand, right? I appreciate that. And hey, I mean, you talking football on a Sunday, and what else are you going to do? But still, 4 a.m. That means you're up at what, 3?
I get about 2:30. Absolutely.
Wow.
Start doing some prep work, get ready for some DFS lineups, set some stuff up, play around with it, check up. This is what happens when you get up at the crack of dawn, right? Then all of a sudden you start, you're doing the bob and weave at 9 p.m. on the couch, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm up. So, really, it doesn't stress me out too much to nod off at 9 just to get up at 2:30.
Well, you get to see Rappaport and Schefter's overnight tweets before most people, at least. So you got that going for you.
Which is nice.
Yes, you got that, yeah. So, hey, lots going on in the NFL. Week 2, we had so many injuries that popped up, like that weren't like obvious in the game, whether it was Michael Pittman or, in that whole situation. That was, we had a whole slew of guys like that, where we didn't think they were going to be that bad. I mean, we knew about the obvious ones, but we're having the in-practice injuries. Gabe Davis, another one there. It was a tough week last week.
It was definitely a tough week. And, that's the thing, is that what people don't understand is just because you don't see guys on the injury report on Monday, right, after the Sunday games, it's Tuesday when you really need to see it, right? Are they back at practice? If they're not back at practice, why? And kind of move on from there, because it takes a day. You got the game, you get your Monday off from the practice field, but you're still in the trainer room, and you're still dealing with stuff that you have to deal with. So you might not see a whole lot of action on a Monday, but come Tuesday morning, all of a sudden that injury report starts popping up, and you realize that you got a lot of stuff to deal with.
Yeah, Alvin Kamara is another one there where he played through it in week 1, and then it got, even practiced once, and then it got worse. So it seems like it's different. Usually I blow off the Wednesday injury report, or I don't blow it off, but unless it's something new, I'm like, oh, okay, fine. It's a Veterans Day rest. Okay. It's probable, he's limited, then he's going to go full, and then he's going to be fine. That didn't happen a lot. So we're going to start off with a non-injury news item first. So Mike Evans, he got his Marshawn Lattimore fight on yet again, got ejected from that game, and now got suspended. That appeal got denied. He is going to sit out this week against Green Bay.
And, listen, rightfully so. I mean, this beef between Evans and Lattimore, it dates back to a few years ago here. I don't even know what the original beef was all about. But obviously it's really stuck with Evans. I mean, if you remember,
and it's real. Yeah.
Like 2 seasons ago where Lattimore was standing facing the sidelines, and Evans came running across the field and just, slammed him in the back and knocked him forward. I mean, I think, a lot of people kind of forget that. And so, I was having this conversation with Jim Bowden, who was like, well, you got to protect Brady. I'm like, Brady was not in any imminent danger. As a matter of fact, Brady went mouthing off to the players, to the opposition, and all they did was, start jawing back with him. I said Evans was using protecting Brady as an excuse for his own personal agenda. Whatever.
No, that wasn't a peacemaking thing. That was a blow. I mean, he was looking for an opportunity. Sometimes you have beef, and it's kind of okay. You have beef. It's fine. They push and shove. They talk smack and all that. No, this was real. This was absolutely real. It just totally inflamed it there for sure. 100%, especially because Fournette was already protecting Brady as it was. They didn't need that was this total blindside third man in sort of situation. Totally get it.
Hey, doesn't that give life to Cole Beasley now for fantasy?
Yikes. Well, that's going to ask you two things, two-part question. Are you picking up Rashad Perriman? Have you in early waivers? Have you made him a part of that? And second part, are you considering benching Brady if you have him this week?
I'm definitely considering benching Brady. I think that this game actually this lines up as a really nice game for Leonard Fournette, despite the fact that their offensive line has been decimated by injuries. Leonard Fournette has still had at least 20 carries in each of the first two games. Brady doesn't want to throw the ball 40 times a game, so they're going to continue that with Leonard Fournette. And now that Brady doesn't have the weapons or the rapport with his weapons right now, you have to look at it. Listen, yes, he's the GOAT, and yes, he will find a way to get the ball, move the ball downfield, and he will find a way to try and get these Bucs to win. But from a fantasy perspective, you're not looking at a 300-yard passer here. You're not looking at, more than 2 touchdowns in a game, it doesn't seem, because we've seen Brady, whether it's a rookie or whether it's a veteran, if he doesn't have that on-field rapport with them, then it's really tough to come by for, as far as the timing routes go. So, yeah, I would definitely look to consider not dropping but benching Brady this week for any number of guys. I'll bench him for Trevor Lawrence, for crying out loud.
Looked really good. Looked really, really good. They even they dialed it back against the Colts because that game was so well in hand. I was impressed with Lawrence. Week 1, even against the Commanders, he had that awful interception at the end of the game. But the second and third quarters, beginning of the fourth quarter, that was pretty impressive there too. I've got Brady still at 12 or 13 this week, but I might move him farther down. I'm now that I know for sure Evans is out. I mean, that's going to be my impetus to move him down a little bit farther. I currently, I have Wentz and Rodgers right behind him right now. I think I'm going to move those guys above him. I mean, I don't like Rodgers' matchup against Tampa Bay either.
No, I don't like Rodgers' matchup against them as well. And I'm looking at the rankings over at Fantasy Alarm. Adam Ronis actually does our rankings, and he's got Brady and Rodgers right there at 14 and 15, behind the likes of Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, and even a struggling Joe Burrow. So, I mean, that's definitely something you have to take into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tough week I found for that there. And I know, so Adam does your rankings, but you're answering questions all the time. You're known for never not answering a question. In fact, that's one of your things. I applaud you for that. And I apologize when I sent you chances to win that one time. That was mean.
Oh, dude, that was the best. Come on, man. Chances, you guys with chances to win will always go down in fantasy folklore as the greatest invention of a segment of all time.
Yeah, the dumbest segment all time. Let me shut a window real quick while we're talking here. Sorry about that.
Was that yours? I thought that was the garbage men out by me.
No, that's me. All right. Totally forget Wednesdays. That I'm no longer doing radio in the morning. Don't have to worry about that anymore. Oh wait, I do for a podcast still too. Who knew? But anyways, it's going to be for Perriman. I'm thinking about it, but if he draws Jair Alexander, I mean, I'm not really thrilled about that matchup. I think Alexander wins that more often than not.
Yeah, even though Alexander, I mean, they paid him well, and he's kind of, he seems to have lost a little bit of a step there, obviously. I mean, you're not going to come back from injury and be, back to 100% immediately. But, yeah, I mean, you look at a guy like Perriman, Scotty Miller, these weapons that the Bucs have. I do. I have a hard time with that. I'm not even sold on Garrett Wilson, but I would have much preferred making a big bid on a Garrett Wilson. Or even a Noah Brown than I really am for a Brashad Perriman.
I agree with that. I mean, Wilson's my top pickup for the week. I did Chris Harris's podcast on Tuesday morning, and we did our top 5, and he's my one, his 2. He actually wanted to do a little speculation play on Jordan Mason. That was my second. Shows what type of week it was when Jordan Mason's our number 2 waiver wire option there. But
and last week Marlon Mack gets signed.
Yeah, and called up from the practice squad now too, and he's active this week. So yeah, we're gonna see a lot of Jordan Mason tilt, and I think that's beautiful because that's life. But Mason could be good. Here's the thing about Wilson too. I like Wilson, but he's kind of a plotter and he gets hurt a lot. So I'm still interested in finding some upside because I think the Niners can support 2 running backs, and if they if one clicks, they could go crazy. They loved Mason in the preseason and training camp.
I'd rather put fab on Justin Mason than Jordan Mason. Right
Ooh, poor Justin. He's just standing there, not bothering anybody.
Nope, just innocently, raising money for charity, being a good dude.
Yeah.
We just keep pummeling him.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all love. It's all love.
It is all love. Who's winning, by the way, in Barf? You're in Barf, right? The Bay Area.
I'm still in the Barf League. I believe I was, you know what? That's the funny thing. I actually didn't even check on the Barf League yesterday, which I should have. I mean, I looked to see if I needed to do fab, and there was nobody on my team that I wanted to drop. Oh, look at me. I'm 2-0. I'm the second in points there also.
There's a football version of it there too. I was actually asking about the baseball one. Are you in the baseball one too?
Toilet. I'm still floating there. For some reason nobody will flush. Maybe they got to jiggle the handle a little bit.
Okay.
Flush me in baseball on in the Barf League. It's been brutal.
Okay.
I mean, right? That move over to football that you have to do. It's like all of a sudden, you're still trying to, I'm still trying to move up, eke up in tout. I'm still trying to eke up in labor. That when I've got a team that's like the Barf League where I was like I'm probably like 9th or 10th out of 12 for a substantial chunk of time. Moving up just kind of falls to the wayside.
It does. It really does. We're going to periodically take your questions. Thanks for posting them in the forum there. We're going to do topics, and then we'll just spice in a few questions here and there. Rick does ask a flex question for us here. Who should I put in my flex? Garrett Wilson, Allen Robinson, or Jahan Dotson? I have my answer, but I want to hear Howard's first here because I think this is interesting because we were just talking about Wilson being a top pickup option this week. Does that mean you're going to play him right away?
No, I don't think that I'm going to play him right away. I think that my problem isn't, because maybe it's a skepticism of being a Jets fan and you being a Bengals fan for years. You dealt with this also. It's nice to get excited as a fan, right?
Yeah.
It was a great comeback. I loved seeing that happen. As a Jets fan, but I need to see what Garrett Wilson looks like with Zach Wilson, right? I don't care what he looks like with Joe Flacco here in the first couple of weeks. I want to see more from that. And I don't believe in Joe Flacco at all. So, when you're talking about the Jets matching up against your Bengals this week, and no, I don't want to bet against you. So thank you.
Okay.
Were you going to try that? Were you going to dip into that well?
Am I Chrysalis? Do I look like Chrysalis? No, I'm not going to do that to you.
You're so much more handsome than Chris.
Oh, thank you very much. Even with the glasses, it's I'm getting grayer and vision worse, but whatever.
We all are. But
to answer the question, I'm going Allen Robinson here.
I'm going Allen Robinson too. Absolutely.
Ding, ding, ding. Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Rick, for the question there. That's going to be one of the big ones there. One of the guys that was interesting last week was Damien Pierce getting all the carries last week after losing so much to Rex Burkhead. The panic set in. I actually was able to claim Pierce in a league this week in waivers. Someone, one of Jeff Mans's bits is always to post bad transactions on Wednesday morning from the Tuesday night waiver run, and this qualifies. Who I don't know what the circumstances was for them. My opponent dropped me, but it's like a 12-teamer. It wasn't like a 10-teamer or 8-teamer or anything like that. Yeah, I will claim Damien Pierce. Would you start him or ETN this week in PPR?
I would start Damien Pierce this week over ETN in PPR.
Yeah.
I think James Robinson owns this backfield, and they'll gradually get ETN back in here. But Doug Peterson is one of those I play the hot hand kind of guys, and James Robinson can still catch passes, and he can still he takes it between the tackles. So I worry about ETN at least for the time being right now. Damien Pierce going up against Chicago. Chicago's run defense is not strong at all. They lost a lot. They lost Akeem Nicks on the defensive line, and that was a big run stuffer for them. So I think Damien Pierce. I think Lovey's going to run Damien Pierce up the gut a lot against Chicago this week.
I think you're right about that. And of course, when these rookies start off slowly, they don't get the full playing time. Don't panic. Same thing with Breece Hall. Same thing with Kenneth Walker. I was penny over Walker in draft season. But nonetheless, I'm holding on to Walker if I have him anywhere. I was frequently the take the one that falls later in drafts sort of guy when it came to that. I mean, I don't really want a whole lot of Seattle, but they were there. They were hovering like an angel. So I had to pluck them every once in a while. But yeah, hold on to these guys. Wilson, I mean, we saw it right away with Wilson, but some of these other top receivers, be patient. Be patient with the top rookies here.
Yeah, it's one of those funny things. Jeff Mann says post the worst ones there. I've been telling everybody, over and over again. Waivers does not end for you once they're processed. No, because now what you need to do is once they process, now you have to go back. You have to look through all the transactions and just write down everybody who was dropped.
Right.
Because those are the players that that tend to end up being there. I saw people dropping Kyle Pitts. I've seen people drop Damien Pierce. I've seen people drop after week 1. I saw somebody drop Allen Robinson. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
have you played fantasy football before? I mean, yeah.
Well, that's the thing, right? And I mean, listen, you and I have done this for multiple decades now, right? You would think that listening to us over and over again pound the drum about patience, that people would, but I mean, even people, I'm getting repeat emails, messages from people who I've spoken to over the years saying the exact same thing. I'm like, be patient. Be patient. Stop freaking out. It's one game. Who cares that you lost? Big deal. You're not in this. And I posted this on Twitter. I said, it's because people are like sitting here trying to like trade away Derrick Henry and trade away, Kyle Pitts and all the underperformers there. And I'm like, it's buy low, sell high, not buy high and make stupid moves. Right. I mean, it's not like you can't be doing stuff like that. You have to learn to be patient. You're not in this. You didn't build your fantasy football team to win 1 week. You built your fantasy football team to win the entire season.
Exactly.
Nobody cares. You don't get bonus points for a perfect season. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. You want to build that best roster that gets to the playoffs and wins in the playoffs. Yes, you want to be peaking at the right time. Before we go on and other golden nuggets like that, quick note from our sponsors on the Blue Wire Network. Thank you for your indulgence there. All of our podcasts on RotoWire are hosted on the Blue Wire Network there, so we appreciate you for that. Let's talk Kyle Pitts. It's frustrating as hell right now. I was all aboard the Kyle Pitts hype train. After all, I'm a member of RotoWire. It's what we do. I have those third round Kyle Pitts tickets in a lot of places. So yeah, I'm concerned. Obviously I'm concerned there, but I'm not going to bench him. I might have moved him down this week to like 5th among tight ends. Yeah, it's exactly 5th. No, it's not. It's time this is a buy low candidate. Even with Arthur Smith saying this is not a fantasy league, blah, blah, blah. First of all, stop crapping on fantasy. Secondly, they're paying your bills. They're the reason why Sunday Ticket is so popular. They're the reason why Red Zone exists. Think about that for just 1 second. But secondly, it's a legit question. Why aren't you getting this generational talent playmaker more targets? Maybe you just say, well, it was the coverages. That might be, he maybe just doesn't want to reveal that. But all that being said, Pitts is going to get his, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to figure that he's going to, right? I mean, that's one of the things. Maybe, and this was just one hypothesis that I had, was that maybe a guy like Arthur Smith doesn't really know how to deal with Kyle Pitts. If he was a true tight end, he'd turn him into the next Delaney Walker, like they did back in Tennessee, right? But now it's like, well, do we get cute? Do we, move him from tight end? Do we line him up in the slot? Is he more of a wide receiver? And I feel like, he's definitely, struggling with exactly how and where to utilize Kyle Pitts the most. He's got a great target monster in Drake London now. The backfield is, what it is. But yeah, I feel like he really does need to hone in on Kyle Pitts a lot more. And I feel like it will happen.
Yeah.
Like we will see it sooner than than later. But it is definitely frustrating. I can't, I'm not gonna bench him so that I can pick up, I don't know, Cole Kmet.
Who also is a buy low at this point in time. Buy 0 right now. He might actually be a drop, and that breaks my heart because I was kind of on him as a breakout guy, partially because I thought his skills were good, partially because of the who else fallacy that I fall into it every once in a while too. Mm-hmm. And you got to remember that. But I think he's closer to drop. But I mean, London is legit. I have no problem with London getting all his share. But I thought it was interesting in this game. I don't think anybody else besides London got more than 3 targets. So in fact, yeah, that's right. Kadarrell Hodge got 3 targets. Pitts got 3 targets. They just didn't. They didn't throw the ball that much, and B, they all went to London a lot because London's a grown ass man, and he looks great.
I mean, would you trust Marcus Mariota throwing the ball for you on the regular?
I thought maybe so. I put it this way: I didn't think he was a downgrade from Matt Ryan, and I haven't been disproven on that part of it there. But the problem was Matt Ryan is closer to sinking down than Marcus Mariota climbing up. But as a thrower, at least, we'll see. Ryan looked awful against Jacksonville. Now, with admitting he was missing his top 2 receivers, and the fact that there's a huge drop from Pittman and Pierce to everybody else, Ryan looked terrible. Throwing off his back foot, not handling pressure very well at all, not seeing it at all. He looks like he was part of the problem last year in Atlanta, not just let's get him out of Atlanta and get him to a stable situation. That's not the case.
I thought with an improved offensive line, less immediate pressure would kind of help Matt Ryan a little bit here. Obviously, like you said, he was missing the targets that he felt most comfortable with throwing to. But it shouldn't be an excuse. He did. He looked like he aged 30 years during the offseason and then came in for week 1 and was like, not that great.
Nope, not that great at all. So yeah, the Colts, huge week for them. They're already 0-2. They host the Chiefs. They've got a game against the Titans coming up. That's going to be massive. They got 2 games against the Titans in the first 8 weeks of the season. Their whole season is going to be defined by week 8. It's going to be very weird to see that, at least in division.
Their whole season could be determined by the end of week 3. I mean, how do you?
Yeah.
I don't know what the percentages are of teams that make the playoffs after starting out 0-3. I can't imagine that they're very good.
No, I can't imagine that either there. By the way, if you guys are posting a stardom sit 'em question in the forum, that's fine. Don't give us your whole roster. Just tell us who you're deciding between for your last spot. I see one question there with your whole roster. I'm not going to answer that. I will answer like A or B, X or Y, or even like choose one among 3. I'll be happy to do that, but I'm not going to look at a whole roster. So just as a heads up on that one there. Yeah. So
sorry, Snags.
Yeah. Calling them out. I was going to be gentle, a little more gentle than you, but that's all right. That's all right. It's good. You're my Jets guy, Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson. Who would you rather have rest of season?
See, rest of season's that's the kiss of death in that question because so much can change. So much is going to change for the Jets. I mean,
yeah.
For right now, I'll say Garrett Wilson because listen, he looked great at Ohio State. Good solid pickup for the Jets. I feel like it should be like him and Elijah Moore as the top 2 receivers, on the team and have them, 1 and 2, and forget the Corey Davis debacle that is Corey Davis and go from there. But if I had to choose one over the other, right now I would choose Garrett Wilson. What I want to see though, obviously, is once Zach Wilson's back under center, we already saw that he had a nice rapport with Elijah Moore last year. Right? Yeah. We already, we witnessed that. So now the question is, does he, is he capable of having that same rapport with Wilson this year that he had with Moore last year? And then, how much of a backseat does Elijah Moore take? So Wilson for the time being right now is my lean. But again, I'm not going to, unless I absolutely need that roster spot, I'm not going to cut Elijah Moore.
No, I wouldn't either. Definitely not. And he was looking maybe to sell high on Wilson. I could see it, assuming it's not a keeper league. Keeper league, no way. I'm holding on to Wilson for dear life because I think he's going to be a gem. Yeah, I hear you on that one there for sure. I think the Jets are currently better at, for the short term with Flacco in there instead of Wilson. Unpopular opinion, maybe, but what I saw from Wilson, I don't know. I think I'd rather have Flacco in there.
Not me. No? Like I'll take the losses because we're not going anywhere with Joe Flacco. We're not. This is not a year where the Jets were going to make the playoffs or have some big coming out party for them because I mean Buffalo owns the AFC East right now, right? And Miami, let's face it,
good.
Miami is probably, the darling there. So the Jets were never going to accomplish anything. Give me as much Zach Wilson as I can possibly, consume, because I want to see how this team is developing. Because if Zach Wilson isn't the guy, we need to know as quickly as possible so that we can either make some adjustments and maybe trade for somebody, or we just go back into the draft looking at a quarterback. But whether Flacco's better for the fantasy value of guys like Wilson or Moore, or even Breece Hall or Michael Carter, as a fan, that's irrelevant to me. As a fantasy player, I don't think that the jump having Flacco is really substantial enough for me to want to do it. I may or may not also have a no jet policy on my fantasy roster.
Okay, there you go. I used to do that a little bit with the Bengals because I can still enjoy it when the Bengals do well. I don't have to have it on my dime. However, when they get good, you want them on your dime too.
What's wrong with your offensive line right now? Is it just that they haven't played together? Is that what
I think there's more problems than that. First of all, I think Lyle Collins is like I believe in the idea of Lyle Collins being an improvement rather than him actually being that guy. He was getting beat around big time by Parsons last week. Mm-hmm. I think there's I think part of the problem is the play calling. I think part of the problem is Zach. I think it is Zach Taylor on that. I think part of the problem is Joe Burrow. I think he tries to make plays a little, he extends plays a little too much. He gets a little happy feet. He doesn't find those quick checkdowns. He wants to go downfield. And then you get into situations where then they go reflexively in the check down before even going through a progression. It went full circle. Like there was a 3rd and 14 and they did a quick dump off to Samaje Perine before like 1 second into the play. And then they punted from plus territory. I think I ran it on Twitter because that's what I do. I also think they played 2 really good pass rush teams too, in Pittsburgh and Dallas. And I think that is part of it there. And no offense, but I don't think the Jets are at that level. So I'm hoping
none taken.
Yeah. I'm thinking that is going to help a little bit. So we'll see about that. I think that'll be an aspect of it there too. I think they had no reps together in the preseason, and keep in mind, it wasn't just we're just not going to play him in the games. He had the appendectomy. And so he wasn't doing full speed practices for a long time in training camp and the preseason. I think that stuff matters a little bit there, facing fire. They had the 2, practices with the Rams, and there was the don't touch Burrow rule, which Donald of course violated, but honestly, he needed to face some fire. They needed to get used to this. The line needed that.
Well, I feel like we've gotten to the point now where we've cut a preseason game already from the schedule. Coaches don't play their starters in preseason games because they don't want them to get hurt. These first 2 weeks of the NFL season, to me, is like more of like an extension of the preseason. I agree. Because these are the guys are finally getting time on the field together in game situations, and that's what they needed in the preseason.
And the saving grace is that in the AFC North, every team has at least 1 loss. So the Bengals are only 1 game out. And granted, they lost a head-to-head, a home game against Pittsburgh. That's the part that's really tough. But they can recover. There is still time. The problem is their schedule is just nuts. And it's the hard part's after the bye week. They have like a road game against the Bucs. They have a game against the Chiefs. They have a game against the Bills coming up. I mean, it's going to be tough. It's tough sledding this year. But at least, maybe they get a little bit of a recovery. They face the AFC South, which means you also get Carolina and Atlanta. Who knows what version of New Orleans you're going to get? Jameis is playing through 4 broken bones in his back, for crying out loud, and looked every bit the part against the Bucs. Now the Bucs are part of that issue, but Jameis did not look good at all in that game this past week.
No, he did not. And listen, I think that there's a lot to be concerned with as far as the Saints go. I mean, obviously, first of all, can we chastise the beat writers and everybody for not letting us know about Kamara's rib injury heading into week 1? I think that was a big deal. I think, Winston is definitely in that situation there where he's banged up and it's going to be problematic for him. I'm sick of the Taysom Hill nonsense, right? I mean, that's
Who
just
isn't?
right.
Yeah.
I mean, it just kills momentum. It kills momentum on the team. And I'm not even looking at it from a fantasy perspective because it does annoy me when everybody's like, oh, should I pick up Taysom Hill for tight end? Like, that grates on my nerves. But to me, it's more about, you're just killing the momentum,
Yeah.
of your team. Winston and Kamara bringing the team downfield. And then once you get inside the red zone, you're like Mr. Gimmick, Mr. Gadget kind of thing. I thought we were done with that when Sean Payton left, but apparently that's not the case there. So, I mean, there are a few things I do like about the Saints. I like the fact that, that Jarvis Landry has Jameis Winston's attention. I'd like to, see that built up a little bit more. Michael
See,
Thomas.
I'd like him to go away. I'm an Olave guy, so I have him in a lot of places. So Jarvis Landry can just hang out. And the thing about Jarvis Landry, too, is he'll have that game, and then he'll have what he did last week, 4 for 25, and he'll have lots of those. And then, you'll go back to benching him, and then he'll whipsaw you and have another big game on your bench. Yeah.
That's like Todd Zola talking pitching, right?
Yep.
You get a guy who gets beaten up, and then you take him out the next start, and he goes 7 innings of scoreless ball, and you missed out on it already. You either got to keep him in there or not.
Well, I mean, you really have to dive into the matchups. You had to know Atlanta has a terrible slot corner, for instance, and know that he was going to be the guy on Landry. That's the tricky part. And now we see how in 2 games how New Orleans is going to run their offense. Olave is going to be on the outside. He's going to get a lot of deep targets, and I like that. By the way, I'm not air yards to the death or anything like that, but at the same time, I do like seeing 300 air yards. I think it's a positive thing, and that fumble is quirky and goofy, and it's not predictive at all. It was a weird play, but so I'm still optimistic on Olave.
Listen, I just think from a talent standpoint, you got to love him, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you really do. And if the Saints were a little bit more of a high flying offense, if Jameis was really slinging the ball around there, then you've got, the ability. I think the thing that hurt Olave actually is the fact that Michael Thomas came back and is playing well, right?
And is good.
And he doesn't seem to have the attitude that he had when Peyton was running the show.
Exactly. We're going to take more of your questions. I want to talk a little Lions when we come back here. But first, quick note from our friends at BroThrow. Have you ever bet on sports with your buddies? BroThrow is the only sports betting platform that lets you bet directly with friends. And BroThrow doesn't take a cut of every bet. No fees, no juice, no middleman. BroThrow is not a sports book. You bet on sports directly against other users with no juice or vig, which saves you a ton of money over time. Betting $11 to win 10 stinks. With BroThrow, you bet 10 to win 10. BroThrow offers a hassle-free sign-up process that lets you get in the action in seconds. And you don't have to deposit money on BroThrow either. Instead, you pay other bettors directly. Throw out your first bet and go to brothrow.com/roto and use code ROTO. BroThrow is free to sign up. Cut out the middleman and start betting on BroThrow. That's brothrow.com/roto. Amon-Ra St. Brown went off again last week against the Commanders. He was good in week 1. He was amazing to finish the stretch run last year. At what point do we start, including him in top 10, top 15 wide receivers, Howard?
What, you haven't already?
Yeah. I mean, he's right around 10, I think, this week for me.
He really is. And you got to respect it, right? I mean, there's definite talent there. I don't think, that's the thing is, I don't think it's Amon-Ra St. Brown that we all worry about, whether or not, I mean, the dude's talented. It's the guy throwing him the ball. And we worry about Jared Goff and that it's, typically supposed to be a run first offense in Detroit. That's what Dan Campbell wants to do. He wants to run the ball. He wants to eat kneecaps. And then if he can, pass it, get a passing touchdown, he'll do that. So,
right.
I think St. Brown, listen, I mean, the guy, he can stretch the field when he needs to. He can come across the middle. He can fight for a ball in traffic. He's got a vertical leap that keeps him, all over there. You got DJ Chark on the other side of the field, just stretching the field. You let Hawkinson or somebody else, end up taking a lot of the, some more of the underneath stuff, which frees up Amon-Ra St. Brown for like the intermediary stuff, plus the deep stuff. If you want to throw, underneath to him, he's like the jack of all trades, right? I think he's working primarily out of the slot right now. think so far he's taken like 84% of his snaps out of the slot. So, I think that they're really trying to utilize that versatility of his in order to make that happen. I dig him. I think he's in a great spot. It should be a very, very cool matchup this week against Minnesota. I'll keep him in my starting lineups. I'll keep him ranked there, in like that top 10, top 12, and just kind of move forward with it. Again, it's going to be about Jared Goff disappointing us, not Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, and Goff, since they changed play callers, has been pretty decent.
Yeah.
And he's healthy now. I mean, that's always been kind of part of his package. I think he's one of those quarterbacks when everything is right, like health, line. He's got a great offensive line right now. When those things are working, I think he's actually someone that we can kind of count on a little bit there. I like using him a little bit. He's a super flex gold. And then you look at the skill position players. I mean, Chark had a bad week last week, but he can play. St. Brown's awesome. Swift is awesome. And they're going to get Jameson Williams at some point in time, too, to take that top off. And that's why I think St. Brown stays in the slot, by the way. I think he's going to benefit from having two really solid outside receivers there. He's going to just be – I think he's going to eat.
Yeah, it was like when you had Antonio Brown on one side, Mike Wallace on the other, and Juju Smith-Schuster that first year that he was like working out the slot.
That's a good call.
He had those really like two guys on the outside, and it freed him up for everything. I think that's it's a solid idea, knowing that what Josh Reynolds is going to be the guy who's going to sit. Oh, poor Josh.
Yeah, it might be Chark. Who knows?
I will say this though, everybody's going to hate me for it though. Is that I made some picks. I do some handicapping over at pickswise.com. And I took the Vikings laying the 6 points against Detroit.
Okay, muy interesante.
Well, because I'm a much more of a contrarian bettor, right? All those beautiful hotels, the Aria with its wonderful gelato wheel that you and I know and love so much from Las Vegas. All those beautiful hotels were built on the public being wrong.
Yes.
Right? So to sit there and say that, everybody's like, yeah, because everybody's in on Detroit. Everybody loves Detroit. Everybody saw Detroit on Hard Knocks. Yeah. Watched how close they played the Philadelphia Eagles, who destroyed the Minnesota Vikings.
That's right. And so, transitive property already in week 3.
Oh, the law of modus tollens already? Are we talking math here? I can do that. But I think, I'm a contrarian bettor. And it does seem to work for me. And I do feel like everybody's going to be like, the Lions are playing everybody tough and they're playing everybody tight. And they're a great team and they're so much more improved. And, look how they played the Eagles versus how the Vikings played the Eagles. And then they all of a sudden, all the money's going on the Lions +6. The line will come down to 5.5. And the next thing you know, the Vikings walk away with a 10-point win.
Yeah, and it's so funny because a week ago, the Vikings were an it team. And then I had people yelling at me, Cousins is way too low. He's 5 spots too low among your quarterbacks. Greg Joseph, what have you done to Greg Joseph? Okay, first of all, kickers, who cares? No, start him if you think I'm wrong. Joseph. He got 1 point for you, by the way. That's okay. It's all that. Related to the St. Brown conversation, XXX Lex says, someone offered me A.J. Dillon for my Amon-Ra St. Brown. He already has Chase, A.J. Brown, Higgins, Hollywood Brown, Elijah Moore, and Garrett Wilson. By the way, I love going early receiver. That is crazy depth at wide receiver. I understand the impetus.
But why would you want Chase and Higgins on the same team?
Unless you have Burrow to go with it and you're just going like in an overall contest, I think maybe you do that.
If you're playing if you're like in the FFPC, or the NFC, overall championships, then sure, having that stack is fine. But like in a regular, season long league, I don't want to stack that. I mean, I would trade Higgins for AJ Dillon, but I don't know if I would trade Amon-Ra St. Brown for him.
I'd agree with that, by the way. The sun just came shining in.
The sun came shining in because the RotoBuzz gal said, it's smoothie time.
Oh, way to go, RotoBuzz gal. I like that. Right? Yeah, with the branding glass and everything there. Useful. I like it. There. While you enjoy your smoothie, let's share a quick note from our friends from Vivid Seats. Hey, football fans, get your jerseys on and your tailgate snacks ready. That's right. NFL season is back, and so is your chance to score tickets with Vivid Seats. Download the Vivid Seats app or visit vividseats.com to see your team's schedule, compare tickets, and secure your spot in the stands. As the only ticketing company with a reward program, Vivid Seats is the winning app for NFL fans like you. Earn credit when you buy 10 tickets, then cash it in to catch more games all season long. With tickets from Vivid Seats, you'll go from watching the game to being a part of it. Go to vividseats.com and find us in the App Store to browse unbeatable seats. We'll see you in the stadium. I've used them a couple times this year to get baseball tickets, once for the Dodgers, once for the Padres. Really works out pretty well. So did my college tour with my daughter, and went down to San Diego and snuck in a Padres game there. So something for dad too there. That was nice.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyways, Lex says, by the way, Higgins fell to the 5th round in a 12-man league. Yeah, I see it. See, it's the value. I get it. But that's who I'd look to trade now and try to trade in on some of that value. Lots of other interesting guys to talk about this week. Darnell Mooney is a guy that some people are talking about even dropping right now. 2 bad weeks in a row for the Bears. Now, first was in a monsoon. The second was where Justin Fields had 11 throws. He had 17 dropbacks all game. They ran like 41 plays. It was a really embarrassing offensive game. It's not always going to be that way. They play the Texans this week. What's your thought on Darnell Mooney? Are you benching him if you have him? Are you holding him? What are you doing? Are you even playing him?
I'm holding him. I mean, I don't have a lot of Darnell Mooney because I wasn't bullish on the Bears coming into the season anyway.
Sure.
And I know he's the number one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know what Luke Getsy's doing over there right now. I don't know what Eberflus is letting him do whatever because Eberflus is a defensive guy. So
right.
It comes down to what Getsy wants in the offensive scheme. And I don't love it. But I mean, listen, Darnell Mooney as the number one, as any number one in any offense, right? You have to give him the benefit of the doubt. It's a long season. I will put him on the bench. And I will play somebody else. But like when you're looking at your waiver wire, you have to, for the time being right now, because it's early, like if you're sitting there and you're like, Garrett Wilson just had a big 2-touchdown game. Darnell Mooney hasn't done anything. Well, I'm going to drop Darnell Mooney for Garrett Wilson. And that's just, to me, that's spinning your wheels because, it's a relative unknown for a guy who was doing well at one point, but now kind of stinks. So, is water going to find its own level? And are these two going to start to, they're kind of the same now in certain aspects. So I hold Mooney. I mean, there are some cases where if you're playing in a 10-team league and there are legitimate wide receivers available to you, then I would probably drop Mooney. But in a 12-teamer, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. That's where I'm handling that too. And you're talking about 2 teams with, projected to be bad scripts all year. Bad offenses, bad teams. I mean, the one thing is they should be playing from behind, but the problem is if the reason they're playing from behind is because their offense get off the ground, it doesn't help you. You're going to get lots of bad attempts. So that's a tough spot to be in there. Similarly, we had another Bears related question, so we'll throw that out there from Rick. He says, "Should I trade Allen Robinson for David Montgomery?" This is one of those the fallback context questions, right? I mean, it's like, what do you need? I mean, do you need the running back more? Do you need the receiver more? Because I think they're roughly in the same universe in terms of value.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I would probably, if I'm struggling at running back, if I tried investing in the Miami backfield and I don't know between Edmonds and Mostert, then yeah, I would probably look to add David Montgomery. He's not going to rush for 155 yards every single week, but I do like the fact that he is seeing carries. I hate the fact that he's playing special teams still, but I do like the fact that he's still seeing some decent carries. So,
right.
If you need the running back depth or, even if you need the start at running back, then, think about it. If you had to play David Montgomery or who you have there at running back right now, is that better or worse than, making the move for whatever your bench wide receiver is, who's going to replace Allen Robinson? So yeah. I think that's kind of where you're at with your team.
Yeah, exactly. Looking at this week's lineups or matchups here, a lot of this is always contextual. Like, okay, who's something like identify a matchup that we like, a defender that we want to target, an offensive lineman that's failing everybody there. Let's start diving into matchups a little bit here, and we'll start at quarterback. Is there a non-obvious quarterback that you want to start this week, or stream maybe, or use in DFS? Is there a quarterback that you're identifying there that maybe let's say outside the usual top 10 that you think is a really good play this week?
Well, funny, we actually kind of we spoke on that a little bit already when it came to Marcus Mariota.
Yeah.
I actually put out, I put out the DFS watch list over at fantasyalarm.com. Every Tuesday it comes out. And basically what I'm doing is I'm looking at, all of these players. Some are locks and no brainers, and saying, okay, just don't forget that, this is, you're going to be building your lineup around Cooper Kupp. So you're going to have to look for value elsewhere, kind of a situation. But, I looked at Marcus Mariota going up against Seattle, and, we talked about the fact that, he wasn't really throwing all that much against Seattle. I think you've got that capability, right? I mean, there's no Bobby Wagner at the middle linebacker spot. Jamal Adams is lost for the season.
Yeah, that's a big one.
There's a definite vulnerability in the middle of the field for Seattle. And we saw San Francisco try to, kind of exploit that a little bit when Jimmy G took over in the last game. So I kind of feel like, Arthur Smith loves to run the ball, and he'll do that. But I think that this is a great situation. This has all the earmarks of that Kyle Pitts breakout, right? No Jamal Adams coming in to, help handle the tight end. I think the middle of the field's vulnerable. I think Marcus Mariota is a guy who's going to be able to take advantage of it. And you know what? Maybe pick up some rushing yards at the same time.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, the Rams seemed like they schemed better to prevent the running from Mariota. Mariota ran so well against the Saints in week 1, and it's right off the very first snap. It was a design run for Mariota and went for over 10 yards. I mean, they had that going on. They did not have that going against the Rams. That was tougher. And I do think they need to find a second target too. I think they need to get Pitts involved. I think he knows that too. I just don't think he wanted to reveal that. I think he didn't like being questioned immediately in the heat after a game either. So I think that was partially one of the reasons for his reactions. So besides Brady, besides Burrow, is there any other name quarterback that you're fading this week that you don't want to use in DFS, or you think about maybe not even starting?
Maybe not even starting.
In a one quarterback league, obviously.
Yeah, no. I'm with you on this one here. I don't really. Well, I need to know what's going on with Justin Herbert. I really need to see. Yeah. I need to see film of him at practice. I need to see what he looks like throwing the ball and running around, because Jacksonville's a very opportunistic team, and they're going to be hungry coming off. They
rush the passer.
What's that?
They rushed the passer really well, actually. Josh Allen last year against Josh Allen versus Josh Allen, the Jacksonville version won that matchup there. Remember, it was that 9-6 game last year. Ugly game, but a lot of yellow flags in that one. But the pass rush was a big deal in that. So I'm with you on that one there. I would also say I'm worried about Russell Wilson. I'm worried about the Broncos, especially if Judy doesn't play. No Tim Patrick. I think that injury is showing to be a lot more significant than we realized. And they didn't even have KJ Hamler last week. So kind of lacking targets right now.
Dude, Nathaniel Hackett is a terrible coach.
Yes, he is.
When the entire stadium starts counting down the play clock,
so bad.
How embarrassing is a coach? Because you can hear the sarcasm in the voices of 50,000 fans as they're doing it. That just, to me. So yeah, I would be a little nervous about Russ. I mean, obviously San Francisco, they've got a great pass rush going on over there as well. And, I think it's tough. It's tough for me to sit Russell Wilson though, because at some point I feel like he just turns around and gives, Hackett the finger and says, I'm going to just do me here because you stink.
But Russ doesn't run anymore. I think that's the other problem that I'm a little bit concerned with there. And
design some rollouts for him, right?
Yeah, I agree. But, you're not getting the bonus yards, though, is kind of the other thing. You're just not getting that at all. I've got him below Goff this week. I've got him below Wentz. And I don't like Wentz's matchup against Philly. Philly's nasty. But, I mean, the Lions still piled on the yards against Philly. So there is that. I think you could make a case. Lawrence or Mariota over Wilson would be, I think, a debate also. I'm not man enough to do that yet. but thinking about it.
I got the stones to do it with Lawrence. I don't know if I got the stones to do it against
Right.
Russ, of Russ Wilson sitting again, in favor
Against Mariota. Yeah, I can see that.
With Mariota.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's a consideration, and that certainly wasn't something at the beginning of the year. Sure. We'll hit a couple more questions, a couple more topics, but first, one more note from our sponsors, Monkey Knife Fight. Football is officially back on Monkey Knife Fight with all the NFL action you're looking for. And if college football is more your speed, they've got plenty of that too. On Monkey Knife Fight, there's no sharks, no salary caps, and no math. I was told there'd be no math on this. That's nice. It's just easy to play, easy to win, daily fantasy player props. Just join now at monkeyknifefight.com and you'll get your first game free. Then use promo code RWNFL to get your first deposit matched instantly up to $100. So what are you waiting for? Join Monkey Knife Fight today. I'm here with Howard Bender from Fantasy Alarm, RotoWire alum, now a mainstay on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. And you and Jim Bowden have just a fun dynamic going on there. You guys have been together. How long now have you been paired up with Jim? It's been 4 or 5 years, right?
I feel like it's definitely been 4 or 5 years. I don't know. Some dude named Bobby COVID came in and stole 2 years out of my life. So I don't even know how long things been going on right now. So I would say that Jim and I has probably been about 5, maybe almost even 6 years.
Yeah, Jim's a busy man. How do you work on scheduling shows with him, planning things out? I know he's got, he's in a lot of different kitchens there as a cook. How's your creative process work?
It's the beauty of the Google Doc, the shared Google Doc. Mm-hmm. I'll put down some ideas for the show. I mean, we've had conversations, we'll talk in the morning and we'll text each other on a regular basis. We'll text more, with each other, kind of talking show stuff on a Sunday while the games are going on. And, we should talk about this. Oh, we should bring that. And, kind of, brainstorm some segment ideas. Then once the week starts up, we've kind of got our basic framework for our plans. And then we just kind of go back and forth on the shared Google Doc so that, I throw out a couple of ideas. He fills in the blanks on some things and we go from there. Unfortunately, there's a lot of Cowboys talk still. And that's, I'm still working on that with him.
Yep. Yeah, and you can't counterbalance that with a lot of Jets talk, unfortunately.
No, you really can't.
Yeah. Well, hey, I welcome to my world as a Bengals fan, and and you guys already have some, a lot of segments that you do on a regular basis, like the jukebox and all that. Mm-hmm. And so it's nice that you have that. You start developing those sort of things, and your audience knows those things. Still doing a lot of pie bets. I saw that the other day with Shannon, who now produces for our show, that she lost the pie bet this summer. So I love seeing that you're still doing that, doing some good for charity at the same time.
We splashed that in. We, we're going to include the pie bets on kind of a rare. We're finding other creative ways to bet. And, had you and I been recording at nighttime, this hair here would have been green. Because I lost on my my Alan Lazard double-digit targets bet. Which wasn't even a bet. It was just more of a declaration that Alan Lazard is, Aaron Rodgers #1. And, when the guy comes back, he's going to be seeing double-digit targets consistently. And, we got some pushback from Jim on that one. So, obviously knowing that Alan Lazard was dealing with an ankle injury and all that other stuff that comes with it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to be bold. I'm going to be brazen here. And I'm going to say that Alan Lazard's going to get double-digit targets. And if he doesn't, well, then I'll dye my hair green.
Yeah. You should have given yourself a week buffer because it's going to happen. You're going to be right on this eventually. You're just wrong this last week.
I've got a pie bet with Jim on Alan Lazard. I say 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. So we've got a pie bet on that one. So I'll give him the green hairs head start here for now.
The 8 touchdown is a nice one there too. Already got one in the books already for that. So you got that going for you, which is nice.
Nice.
All right, rapid fire user questions. Ready?
Done.
James Cook or Tyler Algier or Devin who would you drop who would you drop among these three? Cook, Algier, or Duvernay? Need to drop one.
I'd probably drop Algier still right now. It's close between him and Cook, but I'll say Algier.
Yeah, I agree with that. Duvernay's got a concussion. Watch out for that one just a little bit there. Let's see. Brad says Wentz or Ryan or Trevor Lawrence this week. Name one. I think it's a close call between Wentz and Lawrence, but what do you think?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna say give me Trevor Lawrence this week.
All right. Brunch says, what are your thoughts on Noah Brown once Dak and Gallup return? Do you want to have him over DJ Chark or Julio level receivers?
No, I don't. I don't think,
either.
once Dak's back up there, it's all about Gallup, it's all about Lamb, and it's nothing about Noah Brown.
All right. Trade question. Mark says, who wins this trade? Diggs and Renfro for McLaurin, Najee Harris, and Higgins.
The person who gets helped the most out of acquiring those players, that's who wins that trade. But McLaurin, Najee, and Higgins right there. I mean, come on, that's a no-brainer. Beating out. I mean, I love Diggs. I like Renfro, but I mean, come on, McLaurin, Najee, and Higgins. That's a little over the top.
I'll say this about one thing about that trade is I'm worried about Najee. I'm worried about that Pittsburgh offensive line. I'm worried about Najee's foot. I think both are going to be an issue all season long.
Could be. Definitely could be.
Wentz or Tua this week?
Believe it or not, I'm probably going to say Wentz this week. I love Tua. I like what's going on there with McDaniel's offense. This Bills defense is rough, right?
Nasty.
So good.
Yeah, that front four is just so good. And they have a lot of secondary injuries right now. I want to see what happens with that. I mean, they lost, obviously they're down top corner cover to start the season, and they lost two guys on the Monday night game. So I'm going to watch the injury reports carefully on that one. That'd be the only caveat I'd say to that situation there.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Yeah. For those of you who didn't get your questions answered, sorry, we just had great volume. I appreciate everybody asking these questions in the forum, but Howard's got a show to go do. I've got a meeting to go to. We've got stuff to do, unfortunately, so we're going to have to cut it short. But hit us up on Twitter, at RotoBuzzGuy. Howard answers every single question. He came back from like a long vacation and was like answering questions all throughout the night. It was crazy. You can hit me up at Jeff_Erickson. Happy to answer your questions. And Howard, always a joy talking with you. Thank you for dedicating an hour of your day to me.
We don't spend enough time together, Jeff. I'm going to say that right off the bat. I definitely, you're one of my absolute favorites in this industry, and you always will be. So
thank you.
I'm here anytime that you want me.
Yeah, and even though you're with Fantasy Alarm now, every year we do Vegas, you're still welcome. Standing invitation. We do our Vegas trip every year during the All-Star break. Join us sometime. Do the gelato wheel for old time's sake.
I'll do that. You know what? I will do the gelato wheel for old time's sake. You know what?
All right.
Maybe I'll pencil that in for July next year.
All right. There we go. And at the very least, we'll be talking otherwise too. So Howard, great stuff as always. Go catch Howard on SiriusXM Fantasy 5 to 7 Eastern time. Catch us at 8 to 10 Eastern time. And we'll just make it a big block party there. So thanks for listening, everybody. Go win your leagues this week. Take care.